We got extreme right-wingers like Rick Perry and Michelle Bachmann being taken seriously as Republican candidates for president. And oftentimes they are backed by, something called Americans for Prosperity, which is really the Koch brothers, which has a very substantial interest in the future of what has been a republic, what has been a democracy. And we have gone far away from the ugly days of segregation. Some of you listeners I know are old enough to remember George Corley Wallace, Southern governor who talked about segregation today, segregation tomorrow, segregation forever. Well, there is we've gone way beyond that. We've gotten rid of that racist apartheid stuff, haven't we? Well, clearly the so-called Americans for Prosperity were very supportive of candidates who would, in fact, bring back segregation. And there's a new documentary short movie put out by the wonderful Brave New Foundation about what happened there. And anybody can take a look at that. And our guest today is the executive director, Jim Miller of Brave New Foundation, the maker of the film, who I must point out the Koch brothers, the Americans for Prosperity, has indicated to me very clearly they are suing. They are suing the producers, Brave New Foundation, for this film. Well, Jim, thank you very much for being with us on the Burt Cohen Show. What is this film? How is it being distributed? And why would somebody as incredibly powerful as Americans for Prosperity bother to tell me they're suing you guys?
Well, Bert, thank you very much for having me on. That's a good question. I think starting from the suing point, there's no legal action, just to be clear. We have not been made aware of our lawyers, of which there are many, I can assure you, have not been made aware of any legal action from Americans for Prosperity or any other organization. I think that my conclusion, at least, is that it's a tactic that they're using to scare people like you, and thank goodness you are not scarable, and other reporters, so that they don't either carry the video on their sites or do pieces on this video and on this topic. They don't want the word to get out. They don't want their tactics to be revealed, and so they're using threat of litigation in order to kind of shut people up, for lack of a better term. But to get back to your original question about the series, Robert Greenwald, who founded the company, read an article in the New Yorker that Jane Mayer had written about the Koch brothers, and that's what started the ball rolling. We got an investigative team together. We got a production team. And we did some research, and we started looking into the Koch brothers and what we call the Kochtopus, all of the different tentacles that they have and all of the different issues that they're involved in. We did a video about their way that they get their messaging out using the echo chamber. And we have done this video, which we're talking about today, regarding resegregation and how the money that the Koch have gets funneled down through different organizations and through different people so that resegregation in this case or any issue that they want to affect gets affected.
It's really, it's kind of hard to believe that we're even talking about resegregation. This was in America's distant, ugly past. And well, I imagine the Americans for Prosperity are not real pleased about having it brought up in those lights and comparing them and what they're doing to George Wallace. Now, but is it? I mean, it's just so hard to believe. What does the film show? What actually happened in Wake County with the Wake County school system? What was when I was in the New Hampshire State Senate, we'd always talk about, don't fix it unless it's broken. Was it broken in Wake County? What was the reputation of the school system? And tell us a bit about the campaign and what this video shows.
Well, what the video shows is, going back to your point regarding George Wallace, I mean, I think one of the most powerful sections of the video shows side by side, some of the people, including your next guest, and right now in 2011, and then what was said way back when from people like George Wallace, whom we all know was racist, and showing the same terminology side by side, I think has set something off in these people, so that they are upset that they're being compared to these icons of racism. George Wallace and segregation. Now, the quote that you opened your show with, it's not a pretty thing.
No,
and it's not something I think anybody should be proud of. As Americans for prosperity. I mean, where would they come up with that name when they are attacking other Americans? I mean, are they really against people of color? Is that what they're saying? It's sad. I think it's very sad. And what we're trying to do specifically with the video, really, the people within Wake County whom we interview in the video, and the people who have been protesting against what's been happening in Wake County, I think have more of the information about what the school board is doing, and about how fantastic the schools were, and how the integration was really fulfilling for the students, and was helping everybody to get a better education. What we specifically are doing within this video is making people, not only the people of Wake County, but the people of the country, aware of the Koch brothers' influence and how they are able to use their money. They gave $5 million to Americans for Prosperity, $1 million of which, according to the North Carolina Americans for Prosperity 990s, they had between 2007 and 2009 that they used during that time. And so, and on their website, on the Americans for Prosperity, I have it pulled up right now, on the Americans for Prosperity website, it says, "Your grassroots action really paid off in Wake County public schools." So they're congratulating their members for the work that was done, and for trying to resegregate the schools, which is just it's unbelievable. It's almost unfathomable in 2011 that is something that they would congratulate themselves for.
And the Americans for Prosperity, the Koch brothers, have tremendous power across the country right now. It's not, just isolated to a revival of George Wallace's message. But and they seem to be focused, for the most part, on, the name Americans for Prosperity seems to be about the economy. And, the name Americans for Prosperity suggests its whole agenda is about economics. How does this effort fit in with their rather extreme exaltation of the free market as the answer we need as Americans for Prosperity to occur? How does it fit in there? And congratulating the people who contributed, that their efforts paid off. How does that all work in with resegregating? It's a little confusing.
It is, and I can't confess to getting into their heads and really understanding why they're doing this. It doesn't make any sense economically, certainly, and it seems ideological to me. And that's really the only conclusion I can come to.
Well, there is some of the key words that both George Wallace and these guys are using, phrases like forced busing, neighborhood schools, and
right.
I've even heard terms like government schools that instead of, I haven't heard it specifically with this campaign, but with other campaigns that use the buzzwords neighborhood schools, is government schools, as if public schools are some kind of government propaganda being forced on people, and that it seems to me there's this whole effort. I'm getting a sense to really destroy public education, to dismantle education, and I it's just. Are you seeing that too, or am I? Is it part of a larger goal of doing away with public schools? It seems that the enemy of Americans for Prosperity is anything about the public good, the common good. It's all for worshiping privatization of everything.
Right.
So could this be part of a larger goal of privatization of schools?
I think you may be right. I think that, doing away with the common good, I think that you hit the nail on the head. A friend of mine just recently was in Boston, and he was touring around and sent me this photo of the original Mayflower Compact, which talks about the greater good. I mean, you can't get back any further in American history than the Mayflower Compact, and the people that came over in the Mayflower talking about it being their duty to help each other, for them to have a compact for the greater good, and it seems that the Koch idea is for privatization, is to get rid of Social Security, to get rid of the Environmental Protection Agency, to get rid of any protections that the middle class and the poor of this country have left. And the privatization of schools, certainly I feel, is part of it. The Kochs have given money to organizations that have attacked school teachers. Their influence is far and wide, and they really, I feel, my personal opinion is they don't care about the greater good.
Yeah, no, it seems very, very clear that's a concept that's not exactly what they're for. They're for really plutocracy, which is not a word that a lot of people know, but government of, by, and for the very rich, period. That's it. Now, we are talking on The Burt Cohen Show with Jim Miller, Executive Director of Brave New Foundation. What does the film show specifically? Let's really focus on this Wake County, North Carolina. There was a school board election in 2009. And what exactly happened? And certainly Americans for Prosperity wasn't the only. Well, I don't know. Was it? How much participation did they have, and what was the election about? What was the what's the thing that the film is concerned about? Some of the candidates who ran, what were they trying to do to what was clearly a prosperous, very effective school system?
I think the primary thing that the election came about, the election became about, was resegregation. What the film shows is, as Sue Sturgis says in the film, follow the money. It shows how the Kochs gave money to Americans for Prosperity, and then it talks about how Americans for Prosperity, and this is on their website, and we have documentation on this, in turn supported organizations that were for these four board members, the four school board members, two specifically that we highlight in the video, who were for resegregation. I mean, there is some of the debate is shown in this video, and you see what these school board members were talking about, and that the fact of getting the schools resegregated was their primary goal. I have a quote here. Americans for Prosperity is on record as supporting the parents of Wake Cares through significant financial contributions as well as other support. Wake Cares is a great example of the kind of grassroots effort to fight the abuses of government that Americans for Prosperity North Carolina is dedicated to supporting. Now, that's from the Americans for Prosperity website.
Wow. Couldn't be much more direct.
Yeah, I mean, it does to me. I mean, this is something that was on their website. But you know something? I'll tell you, Bert. I think Americans for Prosperity is now trying to reframe this argument about. In the video we talk about indirect support, that there is indirect support. They're trying to reframe it. Oh, you're saying that it's direct support, and this. And they're trying to make that the argument. Okay, that's not the argument. That's really not the argument. the point here, and I don't understand why they're running away from it, is that the Koch brothers support. The Koch brothers not only support, the Koch brothers created Americans for Prosperity. It's their money that allowed this organization to get up and running. And Americans for Prosperity North Carolina has taken significant money. So I don't understand why they're running away from that fact. That's the fact. And the ideology that is in place is resegregation. They do not believe in the children of Wake County all having a chance to be educated. They do not believe in that. They want to pick and choose the people who are able to get a better education than other people. And that is what this comes down to. And that is the sad thing to us.
And I can't help but be reminded of the civil rights struggle back in the late 50s and early 60s, when people on the other side were claiming government interference. We want to run our schools our way. Let us decide. Let us have neighborhood schools. Here's big government coming in here and telling us what to do. And the argument sounds, a carbon copy. It's virtually the same. And it's interesting to me. Now, AFP, as you say, is trying to run away from this. They say they had no direct involvement. Wink, wink, nod, nod. I'm reminded of the American Israel Public Affairs Committee. Now, they're not a PAC per se. APAC doesn't give money directly to candidates, but boy, they sure make sure a lot of money gets where they want it to go. Is there anything kind of similar in the process to that?
I would have to agree with you. I mean, they are able to do it. I'm not a lawyer, right? So we work with a team of lawyers in order to make sure that everything we do is above board. And so, I don't know the law. I'm sure that what they're doing is within the confines
of
the letter of the law.
No doubt.
Okay?
Yep.
But the fact that they're hiding where the money is coming from, why aren't they open about the connections? Why do they want to distance themselves so much from the Kochs and the greater agenda that you speak about? That concerns me. And then getting back to the point, why are they not allowing the children within the system? It's been established that in order for the system to work, the integration within the county is necessary. And it's been working that way for a while. Why do they want to separate that? Why do they want to give certain people an advantage? To me, I don't see any, just to me, any other reason besides an ideology of racism. And exactly what we're pointing out in the video, George Wallace having the same words that they have is concerning, to put it mildly.
Yeah, I'd say it's interesting. Adele Stan wrote a piece about it, suggesting that racial prejudice is being used to undermine public education and lead to less successful schools and lead to privatization. And I think her point here is interesting, that racial prejudice, let's face it, it's still there. It hasn't gone away entirely yet. May be being used as a means to a libertarian end. It seems that, all of us agree in liberty, but, there's the extreme libertarian of no government, just total chaos, really, and that the rich rule, and that's just the way it is. And I wonder if this racial prejudice is being used as a wedge to stir people up and to advance the idea that government should not support schools at all. I'm thinking that must be part of their goal, because, many people have called it government schools, and they want to pull their kids out of schools and have homeschooling, which sometimes can be quite fine. But what about the other kids? What about the community as a whole? So this election was in 2009. what actually happened in in that election? And then I want to make sure that I talk about one of the things that is in the film, the real effects on the students. That's one of the most powerful parts of the film. So,
right. Well, when the board members were elected, they did proceed to start the process of resegregation. As we show in the video, and I do encourage everybody to go to KochBrothersExposed.com to see the video for themselves. As you see in the video, when the process was started, there was an uproar within the community, and there were demonstrations, and people stood up for themselves, and people stood up for their children. More importantly, they saw what was about to happen, and so they were able to get this process stopped, which is a good thing. What's happening, though, in October, there is going to be another vote. There's going to be, it could get started again, or we could stop it permanently. So it's one of these things that is ongoing right now, and having people participate and speak out, as many people do in the film, and as many people have since, who have visited our website, and say, look, this isn't good for my child. This is not good for the community. We need to let our children be educated properly.
And it seems the Wake County was doing very well. It was a very good reputation. The region's economy was strong, and it seems that in part the county prospered partially because of its reputation for good schools. That happens everywhere. Good schools do clearly relate to a strong regional economy. And I did want to make sure that that we don't skip out, and I would encourage people, and yes, Koch brothers, if you're listening, I am encouraging people to look at the video. Yes, you heard that. What is the real effect on the students? There was one particular student there, a black student, who was very, very articulate, very moving.
Right. Well, I think his story, I encourage people, as you said, to watch the video, because I can't even put into words the power of hearing his personal story. And I think that there are hundreds more like that. We unfortunately have a limited amount of time and limited budgets in order to accomplish and produce these videos. And I think that Jeff and his team did a fantastic job. If we had more time, we could make a 90-minute film out of some of the personal stories that we came across, and the people whom we spoke with, and some of the other organizations that are down on the ground really doing the hard work, the hand-to-hand combat, as it were, in Wake County, in order to just allow people to understand the facts, and for them not to be sidetracked by little media bites or terminology like forced busing, which you have to give it to them. They do have these phrases that
right.
that resonate.
Yes.
In a way that scare people. But it's just when you dig a little deeper and you find out the truth and you find out the effects of these people, and then we have no way of knowing what the long-term effects would be within a county like that. I mean, you start doing this and you go back in 20 years, and what happens to the entire county? It's a sad thing if we have to go down that road, and hopefully we don't.
Well,
but I think you're right. I think you're right in looking at the larger frame, because AFP has supported the private school industry, and this could be a way of backdooring into that and saying, hey, let's stop this public education and let's have private schools. I think it would be disastrous for the system.
Well, it does seem to be in keeping with everything I know about the AFP. But before I let you go, I just wanted to find out, before I talk with the spokesperson for Americans for Prosperity, Dallas Woodhouse, who is North Carolina State Director, Is there solid evidence of Americans for Prosperity involvement in this election?
Well, once again, that reframing of the argument here, I think, is it's a rabbit hole that they want everybody to go down right now. Okay? Our point is that the Coctopus uses their money. They fund American for Prosperity. American for Prosperity goes out, as they say on their website, and says that where's my quote? Your grassroots action really paid off in Wake County Public Schools. They support other organizations like Wake Cares. So they're doing it all, I'm sure, the letter of the law, but you follow the money. The point is, why don't they come clean and say, hey, you know something? These are the people that we wanted elected. I would love for you to ask Mr. Woodhouse, did the people get elected that you wanted to personally get elected? Are these your choices? Do you want the schools resegregated? Why do you want to go back to a time that did not work? Why do you want to move the clock back? Why don't you care about the greater good? Why shouldn't every child in Wake County get the proper education? I mean, that's why are you trying to censor reporters by saying that you're suing us? I mean, these are the answers to the questions that I would love. I mean, the fact is, our Pope, who is one of AFP's national directors, has personally given money. So there is to the Wake GOP, right? And the Wake GOP spends their money on campaign mailers. So you can connect the dots, and we can go down that rabbit hole and spend hours going back and forth and digging up 990s and all that stuff. But to me, the point really is, why are you trying to disassociate yourself from the Koch brothers? Why are you going back to George Wallace and trying to segregate schools and deny children the chance to get an equal education?
Amazing. Well, I was remembering in the early mid-'60s, we had something called extremism that we discussed when I was in junior high school. It's far worse than that now. It really is. So if people are interested in seeing the film and being in touch with Brave New Foundation, do give us the web contact information here now.
It's KochBrothersExposed.com.
All right.
And you can go on, you can see this video, you can see the other videos in the series. You can sign up, so we'll send you the rest. There's going to be about 4 or 5 more videos that we do on different issues that the Koch brothers fund.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Jim Miller, Executive Director of Brave New Foundation. Thanks for the work so far.
Thank you for your time, Bert. I really appreciate it.
All right. And if all goes well, we will be back with The Other Side. Stay tuned to The Bert Cohen Show.